Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy, Typical Security Guard, coming to you today with an episode of Security Guard Radio. It has been an entire, probably 5-6 months since we have done a radio broadcast. You know, podcasting is something that I really enjoy. I want to do more of. And, going into 2023, everybody, they've got their New Year's resolutions, things that they want to do, things they want to change, things they want to improve upon. And I'm no different, guys. I've got a couple of things that I can do better with and follow through with more things. And so, I'm going to continue to put that information out there. Part of putting that information out there is creating in different forms. We've done a great job here with this YouTube channel of getting out information, of educating, motivating, training, and informing new and willing to learn security guards. But there's more people that we can reach. There's more things going on in the world, specifically more things that are just happening around us that still pertain to security. So we're going to be doing more episodes of Security Guard Radio. I really enjoyed doing that about 6 months ago. I want to do more of that. So I want to ask you guys, how was your Christmas? Right here we are sitting on the, I think it's the 3rd of January. We've gotten through Christmas. We've gotten through New Year's. Hopefully you guys all had a safe Christmas, a safe New Year's. Before we go any further, shout out to Jeremy Renner. Jeremy Renner, the actor that plays Hawkeye, the actor in one of my favorite movies, The Town with Ben Affleck, apparently involved in a horrific accident. Looks like somewhere in Nevada. I believe he's in maybe Lake Tahoe, Nevada. Has this huge tank type snowplow. Apparently he was, trying to clear feet of snow on his property. Somehow either fell out, got out to check something, but the information still a little sketchy, still a little scarce, but somehow had this thing run over his leg to the point that it was either partially amputated or completely amputated, and also suffered some blunt force trauma to his chest. One of the things that's so important about this situation for us and for everybody, a great lesson, is that the neighbor who heard the situation unfolding responded with a tourniquet. Guys, how many of you, much like myself, are EDC proficient, right? We're always talking about the EDC mindset. Which gun is the best gun to have? What's the best way to draw? What's the best ammunition? What's the best holster? We talk about that EDC mindset. But in a situation like this, and something that, potentially any of us could either be involved in or come upon someone who is critically or mortally injured, needing to stop the bleed, having a tourniquet on you could be, much like in this situation, the difference between life and death. How many of you are carrying a tourniquet? Now, I will be 100% honest with you guys, 100% transparent. I have 2 tourniquets that I carry on my duty vest. And I have been talking about carrying a tourniquet on my everyday person, but I haven't done it. I went to training with Fieldcraft Survival and training with Sheepdog Response last year. This was an entire year ago where they were talking about the importance of having that tourniquet. Mike Glover, who owns and runs Fieldcraft Survival, a big proponent of having tourniquets, former Green Beret, former Army Ranger, Central Intelligence. He's done almost everything you can in that realm. And he talks about having a friend that passed away. They were both involved in this horrific car accident, and he did not have a tourniquet. And that's why he's such, an advocate for having a tourniquet on you at all times. So guys, maybe as we go into 2023, maybe what we do, myself included, is we make this a priority. Take one of those 2 tourniquets that I have on my duty vest right now, put that in my pocket. My wife and I are about to go have dinner. God forbid something happens and I have that tourniquet. So maybe we make having a tourniquet a part of our 2023 EDC. And we'll do that in honor of Hawkeye, Jeremy Renner, and hopefully he makes it out. So speaking of Christmas, what did you guys get? What was your favorite gift? For me, I'll be completely honest. I love knives. I've got a whole bunch of knives in here. Maybe one day we'll do a show specifically, around my knife collection. But I want to show you guys something. This knife right here, okay, this is your everyday K-bar. Do you pronounce it K-bar or K-bar? You know, most people who are in law enforcement or security who have that EDC mindset, most people are familiar with this type of knife. If you guys can see it, my lighting is a little bad here, but most people are familiar with this, right? This is a cool knife and I like it, but I saw something from this company called Tops Knives, Tops Knives, and they developed this based off of a rooster's foot. Now, this knife is very similar to something that John Lovell of Warrior Poet Society, he has a knife that he uses. I think it's called a clinch pick. Don't quote me on that, but it's pretty much the same principle. This knife is bladed on both sides, right? And it's called the California Cobra. You'll see this right here. It's got this little foot that sticks out here. And the purpose of the knife is that it's supposed to be worn on your belt with the handle facing down. This would be kind of a last ditch self-defense knife. You would pull it from the sheath, Kydex sheath that most people are used to. And then if you have to utilize this, you know, the thought process is that you're much stronger pulling than you are pushing, right? So you've actually got a bladed edge on both sides, as well as this little nub here for, let's just say, less than lethal contact going forward. And then also a little bit of protection for your hand, a place for you to put your thumb, perfectly sized handle. I really, really like this knife. Probably right now, aside from some of the Damascus steel, more collector's items type knives, this, in terms of everyday carry, absolutely love this knife, and goes right on the belt. I would love to know what you guys got. Most people, you know, you're probably out there buying firearms, buying ammunition, but you know, if you have something really cool that you got this year, share it with the group. What did you guys get? In Oregon, let's talk about Measure 114. Great news coming out of Harney County today. Yet another win for the good guys, right? Luckily, we have an amazing judge who is just following the Constitution of the United States and the Oregon Constitution. Before I go any further, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but the Oregon Constitution actually goes a little bit further than the U.S. Constitution in terms of your Second Amendment rights. It says in the Oregon Constitution specifically the right to bear arms for personal protection. And I think that at the end of the day, as this continues to move through the state court, this is ultimately this provision in our Constitution from the founding fathers of Oregon. This is going to be the saving grace of our Second Amendment rights. At the end of the day, until they change the Constitution, until they're able to eradicate the Constitution, which we all know that is ultimately where they want to go. But until then, that is going to ultimately be our saving grace in terms of unjust and unconstitutional gun laws. Anti-gun legislation can only go so far until you get to a situation where now it's up before the court and it's either constitutional or it is not. The judge in Harney County has specifically said the temporary restraining order that holds off the permit to purchase, that holds off the 10-round magazine capacity cap, that holds off the closing of the quote-unquote Charleston loophole, which does not exist. It does not exist. There's no such thing as a Charleston loophole, right? You are legally, under the Constitution, legally able to be given your purchase of a firearm. It is in Oregon law, legally able to have that firearm released to you after 3 days if your background check has not come back. That is federal law, and that is also state law. Okay. So at the end of the day, as much as we have been absolutely just rocked by Measure 114 and the potential damage that 114 would do, not only to law-abiding citizens' opportunity to protect themselves, right, but also to gun shops, to people working within the 2A community and the gun community in general, what it would do to their businesses. I think that the foundation of our Oregon Constitution is going to ultimately be our saving grace. That is an amazing thing. So speaking of which, speaking of your Second Amendment rights, guys, listen, here in Gresham, which is, right next to Portland, it's where I live. I'm kind of in between. I'm close enough to Gresham to say that I live in Gresham. Speaking of your Second Amendment rights, speaking of Portland in general, right? A man today, 78-year-old man, was attacked and had half of his face eaten off. That's right. You heard me correctly. I joke about Portland being absolutely run amok with zombies, but literally, as I'm coming home and getting ready to set up for this broadcast, I see on my Instagram that a 78-year-old man unfortunately suffered the horrible fate of having half of his face eaten off. Let me pull up the story here. Right here, it says a suspect attacked a 78-year-old man on a light rail train. That's like our version of the subway platform in Portland suburb, and chewed off the victim's ear and part of his face before police could intervene. Let me just say this, before police could intervene. Guys, listen, I have said this 100,000 times. I know that I am preaching to the goddamn choir, but when you're in the middle of a situation, when seconds count, police are only minutes. And if you live in Portland or you're anywhere within the major cities, metropolitan areas of Oregon, only hours away, right? Let's get back to the story here. Face before police could intervene, authorities said Tuesday. The injuries to the unidentified victim from Hillsboro, Oregon were so severe that his skull was visible after the attack early Tuesday. This is absolutely horrible, Gresham police said in a statement. Police arrested 25-year-old Corian Kramer and booked him on accusation of assault in the second degree after identifying him through fingerprints, they said. He recently moved to Oregon from Georgia, police say. Authorities are investigating whether drug use may have prompted his behavior. I wonder. Yeah, let's all wonder. No case information was listed for Kramer in Oregon's online court system, and he has yet to make a court appearance. It wasn't immediately clear if he had an attorney who would comment. Guys, I can tell you right now what's going to happen. Something as horrendous as a 78-year-old man being attacked, something as absolutely horrible as a man suffering, having his fucking ear eaten off, half of his face bitten off, and his skull being visible. The person that is responsible for this will be released before the end of the month. Mark my words, mark them, because that's what they do here in Portland. That is what they do here in Portland. They do not care about the average person. If you're a homeless person, if you're a drug addict, if you're a criminal, they will roll out the red carpet. Roll out the red carpet for you. But the person who is the victim, that person's family, the community at large, there is absolutely zero regard for what we deal with, what we go through. We literally are living through taxation without representation. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we fought a war over that. Godspeed to that man. I hope that he is able to somehow recover from this. I mean, how do you recover from this? Hopefully he's able to recover from this. Hopefully he's able to get some semblance of justice, but I doubt it here in Portland. And, God bless that man. I hope that he's okay. And I wish I had more to say on this topic, but it'll just lead to another rant. The Security Guard Network app, guys, the Security Guard Network app is live. Some of you have gone on and you have downloaded the app. A few of you have purchased the subscription. And guys, I hope that you see the value that we are trying to bring, not just to you, but to the security guard industry in general. Everyone for the last 2.5 years, going on 3 years, the conversation has all been centered on the need for training. We need more training. We need more information. We need better avenues for people to network and to get in with some of this training that up until this point has been specific to law enforcement, that it's been specific to military, specific to contractors. Guys, I am reaching out to those same people. I am bringing them in, and I am having them lead their classes here online. This is not a vanity project. It's not about me. It's about the security industry as a whole. Guys, if you want access to this type of training, for the most part, you have to get on a plane, you have to fly somewhere, you have to pay a lot of money just to be in the vicinity of some of this training. And then there's a level of what you forget after you leave. I went to sheepdog response. I went to fieldcraft survival. You know, those two classes in and of themselves probably run me somewhere around $5,000 after travel, after lodging, after food, everything, not to mention the amount of time that I had to take off from work just to go to those classes. And then when you leave those classes, that information, whatever you retain, right? Whatever you retain, you have that. But there's so much in terms of what's said, the conversations, the nuance that you don't have access to once it's over. That's why it's so important within this app, finding people who are of that level of expertise, that level of knowledge, and then bringing that information to you guys. You can take that information, you can watch it over, you can watch it over, and you can watch it over again. The Security Guard Network app, I'm extremely proud to have that thing already created, to have it out there in space. It is living, it is breathing, and it is going to continue to evolve, and I'm extremely happy. I want to talk about some work stuff. The other day, there was a situation, this was Christmas Eve, right? We have a new set of officers, and we don't necessarily have a full-on field training program right now, but we do have some situations where newer officers are placed with more seasoned officers. And I had the great opportunity to work with a young officer. And, you know, we were doing our normal thing and going through our day at one of our locations, and we heard a commotion out in the parking lot. So as we get to the parking lot, we see that, unfortunately, it was two immigrants. They both were speaking like broken English, and they both were extremely irate with each other. There was some sort of fender bender, right? So guy number one is yelling at guy number two, and they see the two security guards standing at the door. They leave their cars and they both like run towards us to start pleading their case. This is what he did. This is what he did. And they're in each other's face, right? So we basically like try to calm them down. We really don't get involved. You know, our parking lot procedures are that we do not get involved. If there's a situation, you know, people can call the police and they can go through that. But there was something that happened that I thought was really interesting. The guy number two is being yelled at by guy number one, right? And I turned to guy number two and I said to him, "You are not obligated to stay here. You're free to go," right? Because at this point, it kind of seemed like, you know, guy number one was doing everything that he could to like keep this guy here. You know, he was doing everything he could to like make sure this guy stayed here, right? And so I wanted the second guy to know that he wasn't obligated to stay. We weren't police. We weren't making him stay. He could do whatever he wanted. He could go. So I just simply looked at him. I said, "Hey, you're not obligated to stay here. You're absolutely free to go." The guy kind of looked at me and he like shook his head, and then he went back to his car. Now, as he goes back to his car, guy number one follows him, right? Follows him. They get out to the car. They do a little bit of arguing back and forth. They both go their separate ways. Now, we didn't get involved. We didn't have any sort of hands-on incident. We didn't tell anybody they could do something or they couldn't do anything. We just happened to be standing by the door and they both came to us. So at this point, there was really nothing to report. But then on Sunday of this week, first thing in the morning, guy number two shows up at the store. He walks in and he goes, you, hang on a second here, guys. He goes, you why did you tell me the other day that I had to go? And I said, excuse me? He goes, why did you tell me that I had to go? I had shopping to do and you wouldn't let me come into the store. You denied me service. You denied me service. My friends say you cannot do that. You cannot deny me service. And I'm thinking to myself, that's not what I said, right? Sorry, Siri's talking to me. I'm thinking to myself, that's not what I said, right? I said, sir, I apologize if there's any confusion. What I said to you was you were not obligated to stay here and that you were free to go. I was telling you that we didn't have anything to do with the situation and you didn't have to stay here and listen to this guy berate you. And the reason why I bring that to you guys is, we talk about proper report writing, right? The importance of writing reports, the importance of documentation, documenting everything. And in this situation, what I should have done, even though we weren't really involved in it, the fact that we had any sort of verbal contact with these people at all, there should have immediately been a transparency report. I've talked to you guys about that before in the past. Transparency reports are when you write a report about something that happened. Maybe you weren't necessarily a part of it. You weren't necessarily involved, but you were in the peripheral, right? And in this situation, had this guy come up and wanted to make some sort of stink, or had this guy truly felt or not had an opportunity to speak with me and be able to squash this situation and truly feel that I denied him service or kept him from doing something, it's my word against his at this point, right? But the difference would be if I would have had an entire week's long of time go by and I have this transparency report, I had forwarded that to my supervisor, I had forwarded that, to the manager of the store or the manager of loss prevention. In that situation, if something were to arise, I look much better. I look much more prepared, and professional. So I say all that to say this: while I'm training this young officer, that was a moment of training for myself, and I'm sharing that with you guys. In every situation, no matter how small something seems, it can spiral, it can blow up, it can mushroom into something much more than what you thought it was, right? So transparency reports in 2023, let's start talking transparency reports and just getting that information documented should anything come up. I know some of you guys, you probably do DARs, daily reports, and you're like, hey, we do that all the time. If you're already doing that, you're ahead of the game, so great. One last thing, I'm doing NRA instructor training this week, right? So that I can become a certified NRA instructor, start doing concealed carry classes, some firearms classes. I'm really excited about that. But in doing this, I was talking to someone about taking a class that I'll be offering in the future. And this person said something that I hear a lot. They were like, listen, what's the point? I'm not a Navy SEAL. I'm not a super strong guy. I'm never going to be someone that trains all week. I'm never going to be someone that studies the kind of material that you study. I'm not going to be that kind of guy. Like I probably won't be the kind of person that's, super aware and dialed in, just kind of giving me the reasons why he didn't think it would be necessary to get into EDC or get into personal protection because he didn't ever see himself committing the amount of time that certain people commit to this. And I started thinking about, and it's odd that I'm saying this because my heater just came on, right? The theory that I tried to impart to him was thermostat theory, right? And this is giving me chills because my heater just kicked on, right? When you go into a room and you want to turn the temperature up or turn the temperature down, how much of an adjustment does it take for that heater or that air conditioner to come on? It's 1 degree. If the room is at 65 degrees and you want it to be 69 or 70 degrees, all you have to do is take that thermostat up 1 degree past where it's at. And that's training, guys. That's training for us. That's training for our family members. That's training for the entire general public. And I think that as we get into 2023, if we're talking about EDC, if we're talking about being a better security guard, if we're talking about being a better husband, the difference between success and failure. It's 1 degree. And what I tried to get across to him was, you don't need to be a Navy SEAL. You don't need to be a law enforcement officer. You don't even need to be a security guard. What you need to do is have enough training and enough understanding, enough situational awareness, enough mindset that if, God forbid, the situation ever happened, you have 1 degree more than the person you're dealing with. You have 1 degree more than the situation. That guy that saved Jeremy Renner's life had 1 degree. He had the tourniquet. He had the knowledge. He had the ability to get to him. It was that small 1 degree shift that made the difference between Jeremy Renner dying and Jeremy Renner living. All throughout YouTube, you can find stories of people who were carrying their firearm, people who had just enough training to understand something didn't feel right, right? Had just enough understanding of something to be aware of what was coming and be ready for it. So as you go into 2023, scale down everything. Yes, I get it. You watch Warrior Poet Society, you watch GBRS Group, you watch T-Rex Arms, and these guys are phenomenal. They're clearing rooms, they're quick mag changing, they're doing all this really cool shit. I get it. I'm as big of a fan as anybody else. But all we need to be successful in a life or death situation, all we need to be successful in our job, it's just 1 degree better. And what does it take for us to get 1 degree? Not much. All right. All right, guys. Hey, listen, my wife is knocking on my door. I got people looking for me. Let's see here. What was the point? We'll take this off. It's been a great episode, guys. I want to thank you so much for joining me for Security Guard Radio. We got to do this more often. I got to go, man. People are calling for me. My phone's buzzing over here. Hey, it's been a pleasure as always. I want to thank you guys for being a part of our community. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Remember, like, share, and subscribe. Download the Security Guard Network app. As always, watch your 6 and be great. Let's go.